Following the Second Schleswig War of 1864, John, his wife Marie, son Creston and his brother Peter emigrate to the United States from Denmark. The family plan to travel to their small residence and book a stagecoach ride while Peter decides to stay behind. They board the coach along with another couple when a man sticks his head in, telling the couple that they have to exit the coach. The couple leave and in steps two recently released criminals Paul and Lester, who seem cool at first. As Marie and Creston cannot yet speak English, John tells them about the home that he has built for them, reassuring Creston that he will feel right at home. The two criminals are sharing a drink when one offers a drink to Marie, insisting that she drink. Marie refuses at first, but John convinces her, just to ease the tension. John explains that his wife and son cannot yet speak English, and answers the men's questions despite not having to. The men just cannot take their eyes off Marie, and Paul suddenly begins to touch Marie inappropriately. John tells Paul to stop, which he in turn takes as a threat. Lester suddenly pulls a gun and sticks it into John's face, and Paul pulls Marie into his lap, mocking John that he cannot do a thing about it. John sees his chance and disarms Lester and pulls his gun in a swift move. John tells Creston to pick up Lester's gun, but Lester grabs him and holds a knife to him. Paul then pulls two guns and there is a standoff. Paul gives John 5 seconds to get off the coach or they will kill both Creston and Marie, and left without a choice, John drops his gun and Paul pushes him from the coach. John recovers and takes off running after the coach, not gaining on it but not giving up either. John runs for what seems like forever through the night until he reaches a shack. There is no sign of anyone inside, but in the distance, John is shocked by the sight of Creston's lifeless body laying on the ground. John cradles his little boy in tears before picking him up and walking on. He comes upon the bodies of both the coach driver and the guard dead in front of the parked coach and lays Creston down. He grabs a nearby gun before carefully approaching the coach and spots one man. John skillfully shoots Lester right between the eyes, before Paul tries running away, crying that Marie isn't dead and begging for his life. Without a word, John begins to load Paul up with bullets, ensuring he empties everything into the man. Afterwards, John carries his wife and son to his home. Peter gets news and soon arrives to see his nephew and sister-in-law's lifeless bodies, and stands beside his brother to support him as he breaks down in tears. As it turns out, Paul was the brother of a notorious gang leader and land baron named Henry Delarue, and upon hearing the news, he and his small army of men ride into the small town Black Creek. Mayor Keene meets Delarue, assuring him that no one in their small town had anything to do with his men or his brother's deaths. Delarue ignores him and steps inside to look at the bodies and demands to know if they caught the killer. Sheriff Malik, trembling in his boots, tells Delarue that it's no one from their town and they have no idea. Delarue grimly gives them 2 hours to bring the killer to him alive, or he wants 2 of the town folks as retribution. If they refuse, Delarue promises to kill 4 people himself. By noon the next day, Mayor Keene picks out 2 of the town folks, an old woman who has accepted her fate, and a man without both his legs who begs that the men spare his life. Not wasting any time, Delarue shoots the begging man dead. He walks over to the old woman, who curses his soul before Delarue shoots her in the face without batting an eye. Delarue pauses for a second, and not satisfied, he shoots one more man point blank in the face, complaining that 1 old bag and half a man did not satisfy his thirst for vengeance. Turns out that Black Creek has been paying Delarue $80 for protection, but now, he demands $160 by the end of the month, leaving the mayor wondering if he should pull it out his butt. Delarue buries Paul with his mute widow Madeline in attendance. He promises her that he will get vengeance, but she just wants peace and tells him to be quiet. Later, after burying his family, John and Peter bring their belongings into town to be sold off so they can leave. Peter heads into the shop that was run by the old woman and meets her grandson Wojciech, who tells him of her demise. Peter is interested in selling some skins, and hearing that they are hunters, Wojciech notes that their skills could be used around town to fight off Delarue's men. Peter teaches the boy not to pick fights that he knows he will lose, but Wojciech calls him a coward. John goes to meet with Mayor Keene, interested in selling his plot of land, but learns that he can only get $140, half of what he paid for the land 6 years ago. Mayor Keene explains that due to Delarue's fees, he is unable to pass $150, noting that if they could find the man that killed Delarue's brother then things would be much better. John is confused, but when he learns that Paul was Delarue's brother he understands the danger he may be in. John accepts the $150 and Mayor Keene warns him to hide the cash in his boots unless he wants to be robbed. John steps out and is preparing to leave, when he realizes that he is being surrounded by men with guns. It turns out to be the town's folks led by Sheriff Malik, who suddenly shoots John from his horse. Delarue and Madeline meet with the Standard Atlantic Oil Company, where it is revealed that, with the help of Mayor Keene, he has been buying out Black Creek and surrounding land which is rich in crude oil. Delarue learns that the oil company intercepted a message from the sheriff to the federal government asking for help with Delarue, and reminds the once colonel that he is not dealing with Indians, and demands that his methods match up to the image of the company. John is being held in jail when Peter is dragged in by a few men, shoved and beaten in his cell. Once the men are alone with Malik, John begs him to let Peter go, as he is innocent, but Malik wants Peter to pay for breaking his deputy's jaw while he was being captured. Malik has already sent word to Delarue about John's capture, noting that maybe his little town will now be saved. He reveals that Delarue was once a good man, but after scalping entire tribes of Indians, he gradually became a cruel man. Malik apologizes to John for his loss, but thinks that John should have shown compassion to Delarue's brother, which would save them a lot of trouble, but hopes that John's death will buy them some time until he gets help from the feds, unaware that his message has been intercepted. The next day, John is dragged from the jail where the entire town folks have gathered. The men beat John and throw him over a horse before riding away with him with no one to even lift a finger or say a word. The men bring John back to their base and tie him on a post. Delarue and Madeline come out to see the man, introducing him to her as the man who killed her husband, but John makes it clear that Paul killed his little boy and assaulted his wife. Delarue does not care, and is itching to find out what John is made of, having heard that he was a soldier, and leaves him to bake in the sun. Soon Mayor Keene rides into the base, and before meeting with Delarue, he coldly pulls John's boots from his feet, telling him that he won't be needing the cash where he is going. Back in Black Creek, Peter is plotting and scheming, as he hears Sheriff Malik telling the guard that he will be held back at Mass. It is the same guard that he messed up, so Peter begins to mock the man, telling him that no woman will want him with that face and he now looks as stupid as he sounds. The man cannot take it anymore and rushes over, but John grabs his feet and knocks him out. Delarue has done tearing up Madeline's cheeks, telling her that he has been waiting to smash all along. He has big plans for her being his woman, but Madeline is not happy at all, since he took the cheeks by force. That evening the rain is pouring down on John still tied up, but nearby, Peter has an eye on him and is planning his escape. One guard leaves his buddy to keep watch and heads inside to grab a cup of coffee, but returns to see the man missing. He pulls his gun and goes to check, but Peter kills him silently with a blade. Peter cuts John free and puts his weakened brother over his shoulder. Two guards almost find him out, but Peter shoots the men dead. The others open fire, but Peter escapes with John on horseback. Peter and John are making good way, but John is too weak to ride on his own and too heavy to carry, so Peter hides him, promising to come back for him and leaving him a rifle. Delarue and his men are giving chase on horseback, and Peter plans to have them follow him as long as possible. The men, however, notice the split in the tracks, and the men split up to track down both men. John awakens the next day and is quenching his thirst when he hears horses. John takes cover and grabs his rifle just as Delarue and his men pass close by, but to John's shock, they are dragging Peter's dead body behind them. Delarue gets back to his base only to see the men he left behind all dead and all his money gone, and realizes that Madeline has robbed him. Madeline has made it onto a train with a bag of cash, eagerly awaiting its departure. The train sets off and Madeline seems relieved, until she sees Delarue's gang racing towards the train, which stops soon after. She gets up, pulls a gun and runs to the back car, but the men have her all surrounded. John is roaming the countryside when he stumbles upon a small house belonging to Mrs. Whistler, whose husband was killed by Delarue. She sees the figure and grabs her gun, but seeing that John is just looking for water, she brings him to the barn to rest and offers him food and water. She and her family are about to leave the home and offer to take John along, but he refuses, just wanting to regain his strength as he has work to do. Delarue's men eventually bring Madeline right back to him, but she stares defiantly even after getting backhanded. Delarue plans to kill her, but offers up her cheeks to the gang before ordering them to put a blade to her throat. Once John is rested, he immediately makes his way to the mayor's house, holding the frightened man at gunpoint and demanding his boots and cash back. John then demands that Keene hand over his deed, and wondering why the mayor had come to visit Delarue. Realizing that the mayor is working with Delarue, John demands that he opens a coffin he is working on, and busts his face, ordering him to get inside. Keene begins to crap himself, begging John, who locks him inside the coffin and leaving him there. John goes back to Wojciech's shop, wanting to buy guns, ammo and bottles of kerosene. John tells Wojciech to tell Malik about Keene's and Delarue's plan to buy out Black Creek for the oil, but Wojciech wants to fight. John simply leaves with his weapons ready to wage war. At Delarue's base, the men are on edge as a cart pulling a coffin comes rolling in. They open it to reveal Keene, but Delarue orders his men to burn him as he plans to use the coffin for John. In the distance, the men see a large fire and someone opening fire at them, who turns out to be Wojciech setting up a diversion for John. There is another fire at the barn, and when one man goes to check, John lights him up like a Christmas tree and kills him. Now the entire base is on edge. Even Delarue grabs a rifle as he doesn't know where the attack is coming from. Wojciech, following orders, climbs onto a roof, and after gathering his nerves, he shoots the man in the stomach, sending him stumbling away. Wojciech tries to move but ends up taking a bullet. Men inside the building hear him on the roof and open fire and hit Wojciech, only to see gasoline pouring down on them. One man smoking a cigarette instantly catches on fire and his buddy puts him out of his misery. John sees Wojciech's dead body and feels regret, but then sees one gangster pull Madeline from the room. John lines him up nice and good and drops him from the roof, leaving Madeline unharmed, and shoots the man dead. Unaware that another man is close by, John gets hit by gunfire, and seeing this, Delarue also comes out, planning to use the opportunity given to him. His man opens fire through the floorboards, then goes to peek, but gets a knife to the eyeball. As he staggers away, John finishes him off brutally with his blade. Suddenly, John is shot in the shoulder by Delarue and falls. Delarue comes over to him and begins his villain monologue, but Madeline turns up full crank action and opens up his chest, before John ends him with a shot to the head. The two hold each other at gunpoint, but Madeline walks away. Later, John is preparing to leave when Sheriff Malik and his men ride into town, passing all the dead men along with Delarue. Sheriff Malik is grateful to John for taking them out of their misery, but gets apprehensive when he sees Madeline with him. The two aim their guns at him, and John warns him to leave in case he meets a similar fate as Delarue. John and Madeline leave the town together, and it is revealed that the oil company eventually took over the town. Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications, so you can watch more movies like this. Thanks for watching.